They hunt apex predators for fun, but laid down their weapons for a human girl reaches its climax when Dr. Novak reveals humanity's paradoxical nature, creators of devastating weapons designed to kill each other, yet also architects of conservation efforts to save the very predators they could exterminate. Confronted with this profound duality, Commander Zexlar experiences an existential crisis that transforms his understanding of true apex status, choosing preservation over predation. The Voluak Hunting Guild's Grand Chamber buzzed with anticipation. Tiered seating arranged in concentric rings surrounded the central dais, accommodating hundreds of the galaxy's most accomplished hunters. Ornate banners bearing the emblems of successful expeditions hung from the vaulted ceiling, their colors rich against the polished obsidian walls. Trophy cases lined the perimeter, displaying the preserved remains of legendary prey from 1,000 worlds. Commander Zexlar stood tall on the presentation platform, his burgundy scales gleaming under the ceremonial lights. 3 prominent scars ran diagonally across his face, badges of honor earned in close combat with a Tarsian ridgeback. The neural implant at his temple pulsed with a soft blue glow, indicating his connection to the Guild's collective hunting records. "The Crimson Leaper of Proxima Centauri 4, Zexlar announced, gesturing toward the holographic display behind him. The image showed a sleek, muscular quadruped with serrated dorsal spines and retractable talons. Responsible for decimating 3 survey teams before our intervention. My crew tracked it through the methane swamps for 17 standard cycles." The gathered Voluak clicked their approval, the traditional sound of appreciation rippling through the chamber. Council Elder Krelvox, distinguished by the platinum rings adorning his cranial ridge, leaned forward with interest. "And how did the final confrontation proceed, Commander?" Krelvox asked, his voice carrying the weight of 4 centuries of hunting experience. Zexlar's mandibles flexed in what the Voluak recognized as a modest smile. "The beast was cunning. It led us into an ambush in the crystalline forests. 2 of our tracking drones were destroyed before we realized its strategy." He tapped his neural implant, and the hologram shifted to display combat footage. Vilzor disabled its sensory advantage with a targeted electromagnetic pulse, while Castier and I flanked from opposing elevations. The recording showed Zexlar's perfectly timed leap, his ceremonial spear arcing through the air before embedding itself between the creature's shoulder blades. The leaper's death roar echoed through the chamber, drawing appreciative clicks from the younger guild members. "A clean kill," Elder Krelvox observed. "The ecological balance of Proxima Centauri 4 has been restored, and your trophy collection grows more impressive. The Guild honors your continued service to our traditions," added Council Representative Thraz, her emerald scales shifting color slightly, a biological indicator of sincere respect. "Your technique remains unmatched in precision and respect for the prey." Zexlar acknowledged the praise with a formal bow, his tall frame bending at precisely the proper angle to show deference without subservience. He had mastered every aspect of the Guild's elaborate protocols, just as he had mastered the art of the hunt itself. The final horizon returns to station with 17 confirmed Apex category eliminations. Zexlar continued, gesturing to the statistical displays now appearing around him. Ecological stabilization achieved across 3 systems. Resource extraction teams report safe passage through previously contested territories. This was the essence of the Voluak Hunting Guild's mission, not mere sport, but ecological stewardship across the explored galaxy. When apex predators on developing worlds grew too numerous or aggressive, threatening both indigenous species and galactic commerce, the Guild intervened. They maintained the delicate balance that allowed life and industry to coexist, earning both prestige and substantial compensation from grateful corporate interests. Vilzor, Zexlar's technology specialist, stepped forward. The neural interfaces embedded along his spine glowed as he connected to the chamber's systems, displaying technical specifications of the adapted weaponry they had employed. The modified phase disruptors proved especially effective against the crystalline hide structure, Vilzor explained, his voice carrying the slight synthetic edge common to those who spent most of their lives interfaced with technology. We've uploaded the resonance frequencies to the Guild database for future expeditions. Castier, the crew's master tracker, remained silent at the edge of the platform. His lean frame and dull gray scales made him easy to overlook, precisely the quality that made him invaluable during stalking operations. Only his eyes, constantly scanning the chamber with predatory awareness, betrayed his heightened senses. As the technical portion of the debriefing concluded, Elder Krelvox raised a gnarled hand. The Council recognizes Commander Zexlar's 17th consecutive successful expedition. Your achievements honor the traditions established by our ancestors when they first ventured beyond our home system. Scattered applause followed, but Zexlar's posture had subtly shifted. Those who knew him well, including Vilzor and Castier, recognized the minute adjustments that indicated restlessness. "Is there something further, Commander?" Krelvox inquired, his ancient eyes missing nothing. Zexlar hesitated. Unusual for one so decorated and confident. "With all respect to the Council and our traditions," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I find myself unchallenged by recent assignments." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Such an admission bordered on impropriety, suggesting that the carefully selected targets approved by the Council were somehow insufficient. The Crimson Leper was formidable, yes, Zexlar continued, committing himself to honesty, but ultimately predictable. Biological imperatives driven by hunger, territory, reproduction. Like most apex predators we encounter, its advantages were purely physical: strength, speed, natural weaponry. Elder Krelvox's expression remained neutral, but Representative Thraz's scales darkened slightly with disapproval. "You seek greater challenges, Commander?" Krelvox asked. "I seek evolution of our craft," Zexlar replied. "A predator that tests more than our physical prowess and technology. Something that forces us to grow as hunters." Silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. Then, unexpectedly, Elder Krelvox's mandibles clicked in amusement. "It seems the universe has anticipated your request, Commander Zexlar." The Elder gestured to an aide, who approached with a secure data crystal. "The Council has recently received intelligence regarding a species that may provide precisely the challenge you seek." Vilzor accepted the crystal, interfacing with it immediately. Data streams flowed across his neural pathways, and his eyes widened with surprise. "Earth?" he questioned. "The isolated system in Sector 7? "Indeed," Krelvox confirmed. "Our long-range surveys have identified a bipedal species called Homo sapiens that appears to dominate their world despite lacking the physical attributes typically associated with apex predators." Zexlar's interest was visibly piqued. "No natural weaponry, no exceptional strength or speed?" "None that our sensors detect," Thraz added, her earlier disapproval giving way to professional curiosity. "Yet, they appear to have subjugated or eliminated competing predators across their planet. Some reports suggest they've driven multiple apex species to extinction." "How?" Castier spoke for the first time, his tracker's mind already analyzing the puzzle. "That," said Elder Krelvox, "is what the Council proposes you discover. We authorize an expedition to Earth, not for standard hunting operations, but to study and potentially engage with these humans and the remaining apex predators of their world." Zexlar's posture straightened with renewed purpose. "A reconnaissance mission?" "More than that," Krelvox corrected. "A true hunt, for understanding. Determine how these physically unimpressive beings have become the dominant predators of their ecosystem. The knowledge could revolutionize our approach to hunting across the galaxy." Representative Thraz gestured, and the chamber's central hologram shifted to display Earth, a blue-green sphere partially obscured by swirling white clouds. "The planet hosts diverse biomes and numerous predator species that would qualify for standard guild operations. Your primary objective will be to assess the human relationship with these predators and their environment. And if we encounter humans directly, Zexlar asked, observe, learn. Apply the guild's non-interference protocols unless circumstances dictate otherwise. Krelvox's ancient eyes fixed on Zexlar. This mission may satisfy your desire for a different kind of challenge. Commander, do you accept? Zexlar looked to his core team members. Vilzor's neural implants pulsed with excitement at the prospect of studying new technology. Castier's normally impassive features showed rare anticipation, a planet of unknown tracking challenges. The decision was clear. The final horizon stands ready, Zexlar announced formally. We accept the Council's commission to Earth. The preparation bay hummed with activity, as specialized equipment was loaded aboard the final horizon. The sleek vessel, named for the metaphorical boundary between hunter and prey, had been Zexlar's home for over a decade of expeditions. Its adaptive hull could shift coloration and texture to blend with almost any environment, while internal systems maintained the specific atmospheric and gravitational conditions preferred by the Voluak crew. Vilzor supervised the installation of enhanced sensor arrays. His neural interfaces connected to multiple diagnostic systems simultaneously. The humans apparently possess rudimentary detection technology, he explained to Zexlar. Nothing that should penetrate our standard cloaking fields, but I've added redundant stealth systems as a precaution. Nearby, Castier methodically inspected his tracking equipment, each piece custom-designed for his unique sensory capabilities. What environmental conditions should we expect? He asked, selecting specialized filters for his atmospheric analysis kit. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, moderate temperature range, variable humidity, Vilzor replied, without looking up from his work. Nothing we haven't encountered before, though the planetary gravity is slightly lower than our homeworld. Representative Thraz approached, accompanied by an unfamiliar Voluak, whose ceremonial vestments marked him as a member of the historical archives. Commander Zexlar, this is Archivist Menlox. The Council felt his expertise might prove valuable for your mission. Zexlar greeted the archivist with appropriate formality. Your presence honors our expedition. How may your knowledge serve our objectives? Menlox's scales shifted to a scholarly shade of bronze as he activated a portable holographic projector. I've compiled historical data on Earth from our long-range observation archives. The planet has been peripherally monitored for approximately 3 centuries, though never approached directly due to its classification as a pre-contact developing world. The hologram displayed a series of long-range sensor readings, ecological scans, and intercepted electromagnetic communications. The humans appear to have undergone rapid technological development over just a few centuries, unusual acceleration compared to most species we've encountered. Any indication of how they've dominated their planet's predator species? Castier inquired, his professional interest evident. Fragmentary at best, Menlox admitted. We've observed use of projectile weapons, constructed habitats, and coordinated group behaviors. They appear to communicate extensively and maintain complex social structures. Zexlar studied the images with growing interest. The humans looked physically unimpressive. No claws, minimal body armor, average speed and strength. Yet, something about their erect posture and the tools they carried suggested confidence. We shall discover their methods firsthand, Zexlar decided. Archivist Menlox, will you be joining our expedition? No, Commander. My role is advisory only. Menlox transferred his data compilation to Vilzor's neural interface. However, I would appreciate comprehensive documentation of your findings. The historical archives have long been curious about this species. You shall have your documentation, Zexlar promised. Vilzor, what is our departure status? The technology specialist disengaged from the ship's systems, long enough to report, "Final calibrations complete. Atmospheric modulators, camouflage systems, and weapons arrays all operational. We can depart within the hour." "Then, let us not delay." Zexlar turned to address his assembled crew, the core team plus 12 specialists, selected for their expertise in various hunting disciplines. "We embark on an unprecedented mission, seeking not just prey, but understanding. Prepare yourselves for departure." As the crew boarded, Representative Thraz approached Zexlar one final time. "The Council has high expectations for this expedition, Commander," she said quietly. "Some members expressed concern about your unconventional approach to guild traditions." "I have always honored our traditions," Zexlar replied evenly. "Yes, but you also question them, quietly. Perhaps, but noticeably." Thraz's scales rippled with complex emotion. "This mission may reveal more than just the secrets of Earth's predators. It may determine your future within the guild hierarchy." Zexlar understood the unspoken message. Success would cement his position and perhaps open paths to council membership. Failure would confine him to standard hunting operations for the remainder of his career. "I accept the challenge in all its dimensions," he said formally. "The final horizon will return with knowledge worthy of the guild's archives." Thraz inclined her head in acknowledgement before departing. Zexlar watched her go, then turned to board his ship, mandibles set in determination. Beyond the familiar thrill of the hunt lay something new, uncertainty. It was precisely what he had requested. The final horizon slipped into Earth orbit 17 days later, its advanced propulsion systems having made short work of the interstellar journey. From their vantage point, the blue planet rotated slowly below, land masses and oceans alternating as day chased night across the surface. Active electromagnetic emissions detected across all habitable regions, Vilzor reported from his interface station. Artificial satellites in various orbits, primitive communication and observation platforms. None appear capable of detecting our presence. Castier studied the ecological sensor readings with professional interest. Remarkable biodiversity for a single planet. Multiple apex predator species across different biomes. Marine, terrestrial, even aerial. "And the humans?" Zexlar inquired, standing at the forward observation port. "Everywhere," Vilzor answered, a note of surprise in his voice. "Population centers of varying density across all continents. Their structures have significantly altered natural landscapes." Zexlar considered this information. "We require a remote location for our initial survey. Minimal human presence, but accessible predator populations." Castier's fingers danced across his control panel, filtering the sensor data. "I suggest this region," he said, highlighting a mountainous area on the holographic display. "Designated as a national park in human communications. Limited human settlements but confirmed presence of several predator species, including ursine and feline types comparable to guild-classified apex categories." "Acceptable," Zexlar decided. "Vilzor, prepare for atmospheric entry under full camouflage. Standard survey protocols upon landing." The final horizon descended through Earth's atmosphere with practiced precision, its adaptive hull absorbing and dissipating entry heat while maintaining stealth configuration. Cloud layers parted as they dropped toward the mountainous landscape Castier had selected, vast forests interspersed with meadows and bisected by clear running streams. "Atmospheric composition confirmed suitable for extravehicular activity," Vilzor announced. "Local solar radiation within acceptable parameters. No detection of pathogenic organisms harmful to Voluac physiology." Zexlar nodded, already donning his field equipment. The ceremonial hunting spear, a gesture to tradition rather than practical necessity, was secured last, its alloy blade gleaming in the ship's lights. "Establish base camp in that clearing," he ordered, indicating a secluded meadow surrounded by dense forest. Standard perimeter defenses. Observation drones deployed in a 10-kilometer radius. The final horizon settled silently onto the forest floor. Camouflage systems immediately adapting to match the surrounding vegetation. To any observer, human or animal, the ship would appear as nothing more than a curious rock formation partially covered by native plants. The expedition team emerged cautiously, sensory organs sampling the unfamiliar environment. Earth's gravity provided a pleasant lightness to their movements, while the oxygen-rich atmosphere enhanced their natural stamina. Zexlar felt the familiar tension of a new hunt building within him, that perfect balance of caution and eagerness that had defined his career. "Atmospheric filters unnecessary," Castier announced after testing the air. "Scent molecules abundant. Ideal tracking conditions." Vilzor, meanwhile, had deployed a swarm of microscopic observation drones that dispersed into the surrounding forest like glittering motes of dust. "Remote monitoring active," he confirmed, neural implants glowing as data began flowing back to him. "I've detected several large mammalian life forms within our observation perimeter." Zexlar gestured to the assembled team. "We begin with standard reconnaissance. Castier, identify tracks and trails of the dominant predator species. Vilzor, correlate drone observations with our existing database on Earth fauna. The rest of you, establish perimeter security and prepare the base camp." As the team dispersed to their assignments, Zexlar conducted his own survey of their immediate surroundings. The forest was unlike any he had encountered before, less alien than many worlds he had hunted, yet strangely primeval in its quiet vitality. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in dappled patterns, illuminating a forest floor rich with smaller life forms. The sounds of this world, bird calls, rustling leaves, distant running water, created a complex auditory landscape that his trained senses automatically categorized and analyzed. Hours later, as Earth's sun began to set, the team reconvened at base camp. Holographic displays showed the day's findings, detailed scans of tracks, thermal images of various animals, and topographical maps of the surrounding territory. "I've identified 3 primary predator species in our immediate vicinity," Castier reported, highlighting each on the central display. A large ursine form designated grizzly bear in human terminology approximates Guild Category 2 for threat assessment. A feline predator called mountain lion, Guild Category 3, and canids operating in social groups, wolves, collectively approaching Category 3. "Impressive diversity for such proximity," one of the junior hunters commented. "More impressive is this," Castier continued, displaying a new set of tracks. Human footprints, following the same game trails used by the ursine predator. Single individual, traveling alone, carrying moderate weight based on impression depth. Zexlar examined the track images with heightened interest. "A human hunter?" "Possibly," Castier replied. "The pattern suggests purposeful movement, not random exploration. The tracks are fresh, within the last planetary rotation." Vilzor interfaced directly with the data, his neural implants pulsing as he accessed additional information. Curious, drone surveillance detected no weapons comparable to Guild standards. If this human is hunting the ursine predator, they appear minimally equipped. "Perhaps we have found our first opportunity for observation," Zexlar decided. "Castier, can you track this human?" The tracker's mandibles clicked in mild offense at the question. "Of course, Commander. Their trail is elementary by Guild standards." "Then we follow at dawn," Zexlar announced. "Minimum equipment, maximum stealth. We observe only. No interaction unless I explicitly order otherwise." As the team prepared for their first tracking operation, Zexlar found himself contemplating the unexpected development. They had come to study Earth's predators, but the presence of a solitary human, potentially engaging with those same predators, offered an ideal opportunity to observe the species' hunting methods. For the first time since accepting the mission, He felt the familiar thrill of the unknown that marked truly significant expeditions. Morning brought a light mist rising from the forest floor as the tracking team set out. Zexlar had selected his core crew, plus 2 specialists, a behavior analyst and a weapons expert, for this initial observation. All wore adaptive camouflage that rendered them nearly invisible, their movements silent through a combination of technology and trained discipline. Castier led the way, his specialized sensory organs detecting subtleties in the human's trail that even the most advanced technology might miss. They moved efficiently through the forest, crossing streams and navigating dense underbrush while maintaining strict stealth protocols. The human moved with purpose, Castier observed quietly as they followed the trail. Direct path, minimal wasted energy. They know this territory well. Any indication of their objective? Zexlar asked. They appear to be following the ursine predator's path, the tracker replied. Though whether for hunting or mere observation, I cannot determine from tracks alone. They continued for several hours, climbing steadily into more rugged terrain. Occasionally, Castier would pause to examine disturbances in the environment, broken twigs, disturbed soil, or other subtle signs that only a master tracker would notice. The trail diverts here, he announced eventually, indicating a barely perceptible path leading away from the main game trail. The human departed from the ursine's path approximately 2 hours ago, heading toward that ridgeline. Vilzor consulted his drone feed. Thermal signature detected ahead, consistent with controlled combustion, likely a small fire. Range, approximately 1 kilometer. Zexlar signaled for enhanced caution. Approach to observation distance. Absolute stealth protocol. The team advanced with heightened discipline, every movement calculated to avoid detection. As they neared the ridgeline, the scent of wood smoke became detectable, even without specialized equipment. Cresting a small rise, they found their quarry. In a small clearing sat a human female, tending a modest fire. She appeared young by her species' standards, perhaps in early maturity, with dark hair pulled back from her face and skin tanned by regular exposure to the elements. She wore practical clothing in earth tones and was surrounded by what appeared to be scientific equipment, sample containers, a portable analysis device, and a small tablet computer displaying data. The team settled into observation positions, camouflage systems rendering them effectively invisible to normal human perception. Vilzor deployed specialized audio sensors to capture the human's activities, while the behavior analyst began recording observations. Unexpected, Zexlar murmured. Not a hunter, but a researcher. Yet she travels alone in predator territory, Castier noted. Considerable confidence or recklessness. The human worked methodically, occasionally consulting her devices or making notes. She appeared completely at ease in her surroundings, despite her vulnerability. No visible weapons, minimal shelter, alone in territory shared by multiple apex predators. After nearly an hour of observation, the human suddenly paused in her work. Her head lifted, senses apparently alert to something the hidden observers had missed. She stood slowly, scanning the forest around her clearing with deliberate attention. Has she detected us? One of the junior team members whispered, the question barely audible, even to Volowak hearing. Before Zexlar could respond, the human spoke aloud in a clear, steady voice. I know you're there, she said, addressing the apparently empty forest. You've been watching me for 47 minutes. Your cloaking technology is impressive, but you're displacing too much undergrowth for the amount of wind we have today. Shock rippled through the observation team. Their camouflage systems should have been undetectable to human perception. The technology had successfully hidden them from far more sensorially advanced species across dozens of worlds. The human continued, still scanning the forest edge. I'm Dr. Elena Novak, field biologist with the International Conservation Initiative. I'm conducting non-invasive research on apex predator behaviors in protected ecosystems. She paused, then added with surprising casualness, "I've got coffee if you'd like to talk. It's getting cold." Zexlar's mind raced through protocols and contingencies. Direct contact with primitive species was strictly regulated by guild doctrine. Yet this human had already rendered their primary stealth approach ineffective. More importantly, she showed neither fear nor aggression, merely curiosity and a surprising composure. "Commander?" Vilzor questioned quietly, awaiting direction. After a moment's consideration, Zexlar made his decision. "Maintain positions," he instructed the team. Then, disengaging his personal camouflage system, he stepped forward into the clearing. The human, Dr. Novak, showed remarkable restraint in her reaction. Her eyes widened briefly, and her heart rate visibly increased. But she maintained her ground and composure as the alien hunter materialized before her. "Fascinating," she said after a moment, her voice steady despite the unprecedented nature of their meeting. "You're obviously not from Earth. I've suspected we weren't alone, but direct confirmation is still quite something." Zexlar assessed her response with professional interest. "You show unusual calm for a species encountering extraterrestrial life for the first time." A small smile crossed her face. "Who says you're the first I've encountered? But more relevantly, shock wouldn't be particularly productive right now, would it?" She gestured to the fire. "My offer stands. Coffee is a mild stimulant beverage we enjoy while talking. You might find it interesting." Zexlar signaled the rest of his team to maintain their positions as he cautiously approached. The human's behavior defied all briefing expectations. Neither the panic predicted by guild xenopsychologists, nor the aggression suggested by their supposed apex status. "You were aware of our presence," Zexlar stated, stopping at a respectful distance. "How?" "Micro-disturbances in the undergrowth. Altered bird calls in your vicinity. A faint electromagnetic signature that interfered with some of my equipment." She shrugged. "I spend most of my life observing predators. You develop a sense for when you're being watched." Zexlar found himself reassessing the human with growing interest. "You are studying the predators of this region?" "Yes, particularly the interactions between grizzlies and wolves in overlapping territories." She poured a dark liquid from a container into a cup, the aromatic steam rising between them. "Which brings me to the obvious question. Why is an advanced alien species observing a human biologist in the middle of a national park?" "We are the Vuluak," Zexlar responded, deciding that basic information exchange violated no meaningful protocols given the circumstances. "I am Commander Zexlar of the Hunting Guild. We study and hunt apex predators across various worlds." Dr. Novak's expression shifted subtly, a new wariness entering her posture. "You're here to hunt our predators? We came to understand how your species became the dominant predators of this world, despite your physical limitations," Zexlar clarified. "Your relationship with the other apex species was our primary interest." The human's wariness gave way to something unexpected: amusement. "So you're trophy hunters who got curious about how the hairless apes took over without decent teeth or claws?" She sipped her beverage, studying Zexlar over the rim of her cup. "And your conclusion so far?" "We have only begun our observations," Zexlar replied diplomatically. "Well, your methods need work," she said bluntly. "High-tech camouflage is impressive, but you're tracking like tourists. I spotted 3 broken branches and disturbed ground cover along your approach path." Despite himself, Zexlar felt a flicker of indignation. The Vuluak Hunting Guild prided itself on stealth and tracking excellence across hundreds of worlds. "Our techniques are refined through millennia of experience. On other worlds, maybe," Dr. Novak conceded. "But you're in my territory now." She set down her cup and stood. "I'll make you a deal, Commander. I'll show you how humans became apex predators if you agree not to hunt anything while you're learning." The proposal was unprecedented, Guild protocol dictated immediate withdrawal once their presence was detected. Yet this human was offering exactly the knowledge they had been sent to acquire. Zexlar's duty to the mission conflicted with established procedures. "You would willingly share such information?" he questioned. "Knowledge is meant to be shared," she replied simply. "Besides, I'm curious about you too. Mutual exchange seems efficient." Zexlar considered the situation. The human showed intelligence, composure, and a willingness to communicate, all valuable traits for meaningful exchange. The mission objective might be achieved more directly through cooperation than covert observation. "I must consult with my team," he said finally. "Of course." Dr. Novak gestured to the seemingly empty forest. "They can join us too. The cloaking is unnecessary now, and frankly, it's a bit rude for a first contact situation." Zexlar signaled to his hidden team, and one by one, they disengaged their camouflage systems and entered the clearing. Dr. Novak watched with evident fascination as the alien hunters materialized, but maintained her remarkable composure. Vilzor approached Zexlar, neural implants pulsing with agitation. "Commander, this violates Protocol 7 of the Guild Charter regarding primitive species contact. The situation has evolved beyond standard protocols," Zexlar replied quietly. "The mission objective remains paramount, understanding human apex status. This human offers direct insight." Castier joined them, his tracker's senses still alert to their surroundings. "Her observational skills are notable. She detected our presence despite advanced concealment." After a brief consultation, Zexlar turned back to Dr. Novak, who had patiently waited during their discussion. "We accept your proposal. No hunting will occur during our exchange of knowledge." The human smiled, a gesture Zexlar recognized from briefing materials as indicating satisfaction. "Excellent. Let's start with the basics then." She gestured to their equipment. "You've got impressive technology, but you're still thinking like physical predators. Humans took a different evolutionary path." And so began an extraordinary exchange. As Earth's sun traversed the sky above the small clearing, the human biologist and alien hunters engaged in the first formal contact between their species, not through diplomatic channels or military confrontation, but through a simple conversation about the nature of predation. "Your primary misconception," Dr. Novak explained, as she led the Vuluak team along a forest trail the following morning, "is equating predatory success with physical attributes. Humans compensated for our physical weaknesses through three main adaptations: tool use, social cooperation, and pattern recognition." Zexlar and his core team followed attentively, other members spaced behind them recording the experience for later analysis. They had agreed to accompany the human on her research rounds, observing both her methods and the predators she studied. "Tools we understand," Vilzor commented, neural implants continuously scanning the human's equipment. "Though yours appear primitive compared to Guild standard." Dr. Novak smiled at what she clearly recognized as technological pride. "Simple doesn't mean ineffective. Watch." She paused beside a game trail and knelt, quickly assembling what appeared to be a rudimentary snare from materials in her pack. Her fingers worked with practiced efficiency, weaving plant fibers and flexible branches into a functional trap. "This design has remained essentially unchanged for 40,000 years, she explained, setting the snare aside without activating it. "Our ancestors used traps like this to catch prey much faster and stronger than themselves." "Primitive but effective for small game," Castier acknowledged, studying the construction with professional interest. "Scale it up, and it works on almost anything," Dr. Novak countered. "Early humans dug pit traps large enough for woolly mammoths, creatures that stood 4 meters tall." She continued walking, the alien hunters following with growing interest. "But individual tools were just the beginning. The real power came from social cooperation, something your team understands, I suspect." Zexlar nodded. Guild operations always involved coordinated efforts, with specialists performing their assigned roles within a unified strategy. Cooperative hunting is practiced by many species. True, but humans took it further, Dr. Novak said as they crested a ridge overlooking a vast valley. She pointed to the landscape below. See that natural funnel formation? Our ancestors would position groups at strategic points, then drive entire herds of prey animals through the narrowing passage until they reached either a cliff edge or an enclosed area where they could be dispatched safely. Mass hunting rather than selective predation, Zexlar observed. Efficient but ecologically disruptive. Exactly, the human agreed, surprising them with her candor. Which brings us to our most important adaptation, the ability to recognize patterns and predict consequences. We learned, sometimes the hard way, that wiping out prey populations led to our own starvation. They continued their trek through the forest, Dr. Novak occasionally stopping to check research equipment or collect samples. The Vuluak hunters observed her methods with growing appreciation for her methodical approach and evident expertise. Near midday, Castier suddenly raised a hand for silence, his specialized senses detecting something ahead. Dr. Novak had noticed it too, her body language shifting subtly as she slowly moved behind a large tree, gesturing for the others to remain still. A massive grizzly bear emerged from the undergrowth 50 meters ahead, its powerful form moving with surprising grace as it foraged along the forest floor. The Vuluak team assessed the creature with professional interest. Powerful musculature, formidable claws, sensory capabilities well adapted to its environment. Guild Category 2, minimum, Vilzor murmured, neural implants recording the encounter. Dr. Novak watched the bear with evident respect, maintaining her position downwind of the animal. Ursus arctos horribilis, she whispered. Adult male. Approximately 12 years old based on size and coloration. I've been tracking him for 3 seasons. You follow this predator regularly? Zexlar asked quietly. I study him, she corrected. There's a distinction. Following implies pursuit. Study means understanding. The bear continued its foraging, unaware of the observers. After several minutes, it ambled away into the deeper forest, disappearing from view. You showed no fear, Castier noted as they resumed their journey. That creature could have killed you easily. Respect isn't the same as fear, Dr. Novak replied. Understanding his patterns means knowing when he's dangerous and when he's not. Right now, he's focused on building fat reserves for winter dormancy, not hunting. Zexlar found himself increasingly intrigued by the human's approach. Your species conquered such creatures without superior physical attributes. How? I'll show you when we reach my research station, she promised. It's a story best told with visual aids. By late afternoon, they had reached Dr. Novak's field base, a small, solar-powered cabin nestled against a hillside with a commanding view of the surrounding wilderness. Unlike the temporary camp where they had first encountered her, this location housed more substantial equipment and living quarters. Welcome to my home away from home, she said, deactivating a security system before leading them inside. The interior was functional but comfortable, with scientific equipment sharing space with basic living necessities. The Vuluak team entered cautiously, sensors scanning for potential threats, despite the growing trust they had developed with the human. Zexlar noted the efficient use of limited space, a trait the Guild valued in its own operations. Dr. Novak activated a sophisticated holographic display system that seemed surprisingly advanced compared to her field equipment. This is where I compile my research data and communicate with colleagues around the world. Your global information network, Vilzor observed. Neural implants detecting the electromagnetic signatures of active communications technology. We intercepted fragments of your species' transmissions during our approach. The Internet, she confirmed with a smile. Perhaps our most significant adaptation. It allows instantaneous sharing of knowledge across our entire planet. She manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up a three-dimensional map of Earth with countless illuminated nodes representing connection points. Individual humans may be vulnerable, but our collective intelligence is our true strength. The display shifted to show historical images. Primitive humans wielding simple spears, groups coordinating to drive animals toward cliffs, increasingly sophisticated weapons and hunting methods evolving across millennia. We began with simple advantages, Dr. Novak explained. Endurance running that allowed us to pursue prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Throwing weapons that let us attack from safe distances. But our real evolutionary leap came from this. The display focused on a human skull, highlighting the enlarged cranial cavity. Our brains grew, while our physical weapons didn't. We diverted evolutionary resources to cognitive development, rather than biological armaments. Zexlar studied the images with growing fascination. Yet you maintained predatory instincts. Absolutely, she agreed. We just expressed them differently. Watch. The holographic display now showed modern surveillance systems, satellite imagery, drone footage, motion-activated cameras placed throughout wilderness areas. With a gesture, Dr. Novak brought up live feeds from various locations in the surrounding forest. I have 37 observation points within 20 kilometers of this station, she explained. Constant monitoring of predator movements, territory marking, hunting patterns, all without disturbing their natural behaviors. Vilzor's neural implants pulsed with surprise. These are positioned along our approach vector to this region. You were monitoring us before we even established base camp. Dr. Novak smiled. Your ship's camouflage is impressive, but it displaced vegetation during landing. The disturbance pattern triggered my alerts. She switched the display to show thermal imaging of the final horizon, partially visible despite its advanced concealment technology. Perfect invisibility is nearly impossible in a complex ecosystem where everything is connected. The implications were significant. The Guild's most advanced stealth technology, effective against sensory systems far more acute than human baseline, had been detected through simple, ecological observation. Not through superior technology, but through pattern recognition and environmental awareness. You understand your environment at a fundamental level, Zexlar acknowledged, professional respect evident in his tone. We had to, Dr. Novak replied, switching the display to historical images again. For most of our evolution, we were prey as often as predators. Learning to detect threats before they detected us was essential for survival. As evening approached, the human prepared a meal, inviting the Vuluak team to observe, though their physiologies were incompatible with Earth nutrition. The atmosphere had evolved from tense first contact to something approaching collegial exchange between professionals with shared interests. Tomorrow, Dr. Novak said as she finished her meal, I'd like to see your ship if you're willing. Fair exchange. You've seen my operation. I should see yours. Zexlar considered the request. Guild protocol explicitly prohibited showing advanced technology to pre-spacefaring species. Yet this human had already demonstrated awareness and capabilities beyond what their intelligence had suggested. Moreover, the mission objective of understanding human apex adaptation would be furthered by observing her reactions to their technology. A limited tour may be arranged, he decided, though certain systems must remain restricted for safety reasons. Understandable, she agreed easily. I maintain similar protocols with my research assistants regarding sensitive equipment. The casual comparison between Guild technology and her own equipment might have seemed presumptuous from another species. But Zexlar was beginning to recognize a particular quality in Dr. Novak. Not arrogance, but a fundamental assumption of equal standing regardless of technological disparity. It was, he realized, precisely the confidence one would expect from an apex predator. The following day brought new perspective as the Vuluak led Dr. Novak to their concealed vessel. Her reaction to the final horizon proved as enlightening as their response to her research station. Biomimetic adaptive camouflage, she noted, examining the ship's exterior without touching it. Similar to our cephalopods, octopuses, and cuttlefish, but with technological enhancement rather than biological chromatophores. Vilzor, monitoring the ship's systems, clicked his mandibles in surprise. Your assessment is essentially correct. You have studied similar principles? We don't have the technology yet, but we understand the concept, she replied, circling the vessel with analytical interest. Nature developed it first. We're just catching up. The interior tour proceeded with similar observations. Dr. Novak showed appropriate appreciation for their advanced systems, without the awe or intimidation expected from a primitive species. Instead, she related each technology to existing human concepts or natural phenomena she had studied. Your neural interfaces function similarly to our brain-computer interface prototypes, she noted, while observing Vilzor's operation of the ship's systems, though yours appear fully integrated rather than external. When shown the weapons storage compartment, a carefully considered decision by Zexlar, she examined the hunting implements with professional detachment. Interesting focus on close combat weapons despite your technological capability for ranged options, she observed. Cultural preference? Tradition and respect, Zexlar explained. The guild believes proximity honors the prey's sacrifice. Dr. Novak nodded thoughtfully. Many human hunting traditions maintain similar philosophies. The closer the encounter, the more skill required, the greater the respect demonstrated. As they completed the tour, returning to the ship's central command area, Dr. Novak turned to address Zexlar directly. You've shown me your hunting technology, which I appreciate. Now I should show you ours, to complete your understanding of how we became apex predators. We would welcome such knowledge, Zexlar agreed. Then, we'll need to travel to my university's main research facility, she said. It's about 300 kilometers from here, a short distance for your ship, I imagine. The request presented a significant deviation from planned operations. Zexlar consulted briefly with his team before responding. Such movement risks wider detection by your species, he noted. Dr. Novak smiled slightly. Commander, if I wanted to announce your presence, I could have done so the moment I detected you. My colleagues respect my judgment. If I bring visitors to the research center, they'll understand the significance and maintain appropriate discretion. After careful consideration, Zexlar made his decision. We will transport you to this facility. The final horizon can maintain stealth during atmospheric flight. Excellent, she replied. You'll find it educational, I promise. The journey took mere minutes in the advanced vessel, with Dr. Novak directing them to a secluded landing area near a complex of buildings nestled against mountainous terrain. The facility appeared purpose-built for wildlife research, with extensive habitats and monitoring equipment visible even from their approach vector. The International Predator Research Institute, Dr. Novak explained, as they secured the vessel. One of 12 similar facilities globally focused on understanding and preserving apex predator species. Using her credentials, she led a small contingent of the Vuluak team, Zexlar, Vilzor, Castier, and one security specialist, through a restricted access entrance. Their adaptive camouflage was adjusted to mere obscuration, rather than full invisibility, making them appear as indistinct humanoid figures accompanying the researcher. My colleagues know I occasionally bring specialized observers whose identities require protection, she explained, as they passed through the security checkpoint with surprising ease. Usually government officials or representatives from conservation organizations who prefer anonymity. The facility's interior revealed extensive laboratories, data centers, and research areas. Dr. Novak guided them efficiently through the complex to a secure wing, marked Historical Archives. To understand how humans became apex predators, she said, as she accessed the restricted area, you need to understand what we did to competing predators, and to each other. The archive room contained both physical artifacts and advanced holographic displays. Dr. Novak activated the central system, bringing up a timeline of human development that stretched across the wall. "We began as prey," she explained, highlighting the earliest period. Small, vulnerable hominids competing with numerous predator species. The display showed reconstructions of early humans using simple tools, living in groups, developing early communication. Then came our first technological revolution, controlled fire. The timeline advanced, showing human ancestors using flames for protection, cooking, and eventually, habitat modification. Fire gave us night vision, food safety, predator deterrence, and environmental control in one innovation. Zexlar observed with growing interest as the presentation continued through successive developments, increasingly sophisticated stone tools, specialized hunting implements, early agriculture, and settlement construction. But our most significant development was this, Dr. Novak said, directing their attention to a new display case that emerged from the floor. Inside, protected by security fields, lay a progression of weapons, from primitive stone-tipped spears to metallic blades, early projectile weapons, and finally, a small firearm. "We turned our predatory focus inward," she explained, her tone more somber now. "Humans began hunting the most dangerous prey available, other humans." The central display shifted to show historical images of warfare, primitive tribes in conflict, ancient armies clashing, increasingly organized military operations across centuries of development. Competition between human groups drove weapon innovation at an unprecedented rate. Dr. Novak continued. Each advancement in defensive technology was met with new offensive capabilities. The predator and prey were the same species, locked in an evolutionary arms race with our own intelligence. Castier, the master tracker, studied the weapon progression with professional assessment. These would be effective against animal predators as well. They were, Dr. Novak confirmed, advancing the display to show historical hunting scenes. But they were designed primarily for use against other humans. The predators that threatened us most were ourselves. The presentation continued, showing the acceleration of weapons development through human history, increasingly efficient killing tools developed primarily for human conflict, but inevitably turned against other species as well. Within a few thousand years, a mere moment in evolutionary time, we developed from simple stone tools to this. The display showed modern military technology, precision-guided weapons, surveillance systems, and global deployment capabilities. Zexlar absorbed the information with growing understanding. Your species dedicated its evolutionary advantages to neutralizing threats from within your own kind. Exactly, Dr. Novak confirmed. And, in the process, we developed capabilities that made all other predators obsolete by comparison. She led them to another section of the archive, where the tone of the exhibition shifted noticeably. But then, something remarkable happened. Having established ourselves as the unquestioned apex predators of our planet, some of us began to question the responsibility that came with such power. The new displays showed conservation efforts spanning recent human history, protected habitats, breeding programs, anti-poaching initiatives, and international wildlife protection agreements. We realized that true apex status isn't just about killing capacity, Dr. Novak explained, her passion for the subject evident. It's about choice. Having achieved dominance, we gained the ability to choose preservation over predation. She activated a final display, a three-dimensional globe showing designated wildlife preserves across the planet, each highlighted with specific apex predator populations being protected. "This is humanity's most profound evolutionary achievement," she said quietly. "Not that we conquered our planet's predators, but that having done so, we chose to save them instead." Zexlar stood silently before the display, mandibles still as he processed the implications. The Vuluak Hunting Guild had always justified its activities as ecological management, maintaining balance across diverse ecosystems. Yet their approach invariably involved culling predator populations deemed excessive or dangerous. The human concept introduced a different paradigm: apex status defined not by killing capability, but by the choice to refrain from killing despite having the power to do so. "You preserve what you could destroy," he stated, seeking confirmation of this radical concept. "We preserve because we could destroy," Dr. Novak corrected. "That's the responsibility of true apex status. Any predator can kill when hungry or threatened. Only humans can choose conservation over convenience." As they departed the research facility, returning to the final horizon under cover of darkness, Zexlar found himself contemplating this new perspective. The mission had sought to understand how physically unimpressive humans had become their planet's dominant predators. The answer had proven both simpler and more profound than anticipated. Back aboard the ship, the expedition team gathered to process what they had learned. Vilzor's neural implants pulsed as he organized the vast data they had collected, while Castier maintained his characteristic thoughtful silence. "The human concept challenges guild doctrine," Vilzor finally stated, addressing the question that hung unspoken among them. "Our tradition defines apex status through successful hunting. Their model suggests the opposite." "Not opposite," Zexlar corrected. "Evolved. They progressed from hunting for survival to hunting for dominance to preservation by choice." Dr. Novak had agreed to accompany them back to her research station, and now sat comfortably in the ship's conference area, observing their discussion with evident interest, but allowing them space for internal deliberation. "The Council sent us to understand human apex adaptation," Zexlar continued. "We have acquired that knowledge. The question now is how to apply it." Castier spoke up, his tracker's perspective cutting to the essential point. "We hunt for sport and status, justifying our actions as ecological management. Humans once did the same, but their apex evolution led beyond that stage. What does that suggest about our own development?" The question hung in the air, challenging centuries of guild tradition. Zexlar felt the weight of it, not just as mission commander, but as a hunter who had dedicated his life to the guild's principles. "Dr. Novak," he said finally, turning to address their human guide, "you have shared your species' journey from prey to predator to protector. What would you suggest we learn from this progression?" The human considered the question carefully before responding. "Every predator species faces the same fundamental choice once technological advantage removes survival pressure. Continue killing because you can, or evolve beyond mere predation toward stewardship." She gestured toward the ship's viewport, where Earth's night side glowed with the scattered lights of human civilization. "We haven't perfected this transition ourselves. Many humans still hunt for sport or status rather than necessity. But we're learning that true apex status comes from choosing when not to use our power, rather than demonstrating it at every opportunity." Zexlar contemplated her words as the final horizon completed its journey back to the mountains where they had first encountered the human biologist. By the time they landed near her research station, he had reached a decision. "We will complete our mission differently than planned," he announced to his crew. "Tomorrow, we will conduct a final observation exercise, not as hunters, but as students of this world's apex species." The following morning, Zexlar led his core team and Dr. Novak to a sunlit meadow near her research station. The location offered a panoramic view of the surrounding wilderness, mountains, forests, and winding rivers stretching to the horizon. This would be an ideal hunting ground by guild standards, Zexlar observed, surveying the landscape. Multiple apex predator species, diverse terrain, challenging environmental conditions. Also, a perfect ecosystem for observation and study, Dr. Novak noted. "Every species you see plays a role in maintaining this balance." Zexlar nodded. then did something unprecedented in his long hunting career. He removed his ceremonial spear, the symbol of his guild rank and personal achievement, and placed it carefully on the ground before him. "The Voluak Hunting Guild has always claimed to value ecological balance," he said, addressing both his team and their human guide. "Yet our approach has been to impose that balance through selective predation. The human model suggests a more evolved perspective. One by one, following their commander's example, the other, Voluak, placed their weapons on the ground, Castier's tracking implements, Vilzor's technical devices, the specialized equipment of each team member. Dr. Novak watched with evident surprise and growing appreciation. "What does this signify in your culture?" she asked. "A recognition," Zexlar replied. "True apex status isn't demonstrated by killing capability, but by the wisdom to choose when not to kill." He gestured to the assembled weapons. "We came to hunt your world's predators. Instead, we will learn from your species' evolutionary journey." For the remainder of their time on Earth, the expedition transformed. Instead of tracking predators for potential trophies, they collaborated with Dr. Novak in her research, observing bear feeding patterns, wolf pack dynamics, and the complex interrelationships of the ecosystem. Vilzor's technological expertise proved valuable in enhancing her monitoring systems, while Castier's tracking skills revealed previously unnoticed animal behaviors. The exchange benefited both parties, with the Voluak gaining insight into human conservation methodologies, while Dr. Novak received unprecedented data on predator activities. On their final day, as they prepared for departure, Zexlar and Dr. Novak stood once more in the meadow where they had laid down their weapons. "Your council expected you to return with trophies," she observed. "How will you explain coming back empty-handed?" "Not empty-handed," Zexlar corrected. "We return with knowledge more valuable than physical specimens. The understanding that true apex evolution leads beyond predation to stewardship." Dr. Novak smiled. "That's a profound shift in perspective for a hunting expedition. The most significant hunts often yield unexpected lessons," Zexlar replied. "The Guild teaches that the greatest challenge is to track and kill dangerous prey. Your species has shown us that a greater challenge exists, choosing to protect what you could destroy." Their parting was brief, but meaningful. No formal agreements were established. Both recognized that official contact between their species would require complex diplomatic considerations beyond their authority. Yet the exchange they had shared represented something potentially more significant, a philosophical bridge between different evolutionary paths. As the final horizon rose through Earth's atmosphere, its adaptive hull gleaming briefly in the sunlight before engaging interstellar drive, Zexlar stood at the observation port, watching the blue planet recede. The ship's trophy cases remained empty, but the expedition's data stores contained something far more valuable, a new understanding of apex evolution. Weeks later, Zexlar stood once more in the Voluak Hunting Guild's grand chamber, the tiered seating filled with attentive guild members, eager to hear the report from the unprecedented Earth expedition. Elder Krelvox and Representative Thraz occupied their ceremonial positions, their expressions carefully neutral as they awaited his presentation. The Council authorized the Earth mission to determine how physically unimpressive humans became their planet's dominant predators. Zexlar began, standing tall on the central platform. "We expected to find technological compensation for biological limitations. What we discovered was a fundamental evolutionary progression that challenges our understanding of apex status itself." The holographic display behind him activated, showing images from their expedition, Earth's landscapes, predator species, and carefully edited observations of human conservation activities. No direct images of Dr. Novak were included, honoring both her privacy and guild protocols regarding individual specimens. Humans evolved from prey to predator through expected adaptations, tool use, social cooperation, pattern recognition. Zexlar continued. But they then progressed to a stage beyond mere predation. Having achieved dominance through superior killing capability, they developed the concept of conservation, the deliberate preservation of competing predator species and their habitats. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as guild members processed this unexpected information. Elder Krelvox leaned forward, ancient eyes focusing intently on the commander. "You returned without trophies," the elder observed. "Did you find Earth's predators unworthy of guild standards?" "We found them worthy of preservation rather than collection," Zexlar replied evenly. "And in doing so, we discovered a more evolved understanding of what true apex status represents." Representative Thraz's scales darkened with concern. "You speak of abandoning the hunt, Commander. This approaches heresy against guild doctrine." "I speak of evolving our understanding," Zexlar corrected respectfully. "The guild has always claimed ecological balance as a core principle. Humans demonstrate that the highest expression of apex status is not the power to kill, but the wisdom to preserve." He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show side-by-side comparisons. Voluak Trophy, hunting alongside human conservation efforts, both addressing the same fundamental ecological challenges through opposite approaches. "We justify our hunts as necessary management of predator populations," Zexlar continued. "Humans once did the same, but evolved beyond that justification to a more sophisticated understanding that true ecological stewardship requires preservation more often than elimination." The chamber had grown utterly silent. The assembled guild members transfixed by both the content and implications of the presentation. Elder Krelvox's expression remained unreadable, while Representative Thraz's scales had shifted to a complex pattern, indicating intense internal conflict. "You propose we abandon our traditions?" Thraz asked, finally, her tone carefully controlled. "I propose we evolve them," Zexlar replied. "As all successful apex species must. The true test of dominance is not continued demonstration of killing prowess, but the wisdom to exercise restraint, to preserve what we could destroy, precisely because we have the power to destroy it." He concluded his presentation with a formal recommendation that the Guild establish a new division focused on predator conservation alongside traditional hunting operations. The proposal was radical by Guild standards, challenging centuries of established doctrine and practice. As Zexlar stood awaiting the Council's response, he reflected on the journey that had led to this moment. They had traveled to Earth, seeking to understand how a physically unimpressive species had achieved apex status. They had returned with an answer more profound than anticipated, that true evolutionary success was measured not by conquest, but by the choices made after conquest was achieved. Elder Krelvox rose slowly from his seat, the chamber falling into respectful silence as the ancient hunter prepared to speak. His decision would likely determine not just Zexlar's future within the Guild, but potentially the future direction of Voluak hunting philosophy itself. "Commander Zexlar," the elder began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. "You were sent to Earth to acquire knowledge. It appears you have succeeded, though not in the manner the Council anticipated." A pause stretched between them, filled with the tension of imminent judgment. "Throughout our history," Krelvox continued, "the Guild has adapted to new understandings. From our earliest days as simple hunters to our current role as ecological managers across multiple systems, we have evolved our practices while maintaining our core principles." The elder's ancient eyes fixed on Zexlar with unexpected intensity. "The question before us is whether preservation, rather than predation, represents true evolution or abandonment of our nature. This will require substantial deliberation." Representative Thraz rose to stand beside the elder. "The Council will consider your recommendations, Commander. In the meantime, your expedition data will be made available to all Guild members for study and reflection. It was neither outright rejection nor immediate acceptance, but rather something Zexlar hadn't fully anticipated: genuine consideration. The Guild, despite its rigid traditions, retained the capacity for evolution that had made the Vuluak successful across countless generations. As the formal session concluded, Zexlar found himself surrounded by curious guild members, some skeptical, others intrigued by the radical new perspective. The debate his mission had sparked would likely continue for years, gradually reshaping guild doctrine through the same evolutionary process that had transformed humans from vulnerable prey to planetary stewards. Later, alone in his personal quarters, Zexlar reviewed the private recordings of their time with Dr. Novak, moments not shared with the guild at large. The human biologist's calm confidence as she faced alien hunters, her deep understanding of predator behavior, her passionate advocacy for conservation over conquest. "The greatest predator adapts," she had told him on their final day together, "not just to hunt more effectively, but to recognize when hunting itself becomes obsolete." Beyond his viewport, the stars of the galaxy gleamed, each potentially hosting worlds with their own apex species, their own evolutionary journeys from prey to predator to whatever might lie beyond. The Vuluak Hunting Guild stood at a crossroads similar to the one humans had faced: continue demonstrating dominance through traditional predation, or evolve toward a more sophisticated understanding of apex responsibility. Zexlar suspected the journey would not be simple. Traditions ingrained over centuries would not change overnight. Some would resist, clinging to familiar practices and beliefs. Others would embrace the new perspective, recognizing the wisdom in evolution beyond mere predation. Yet, as he closed the personal log, storing it securely for future reference, Zexlar felt a profound satisfaction, unlike any hunting triumph he had previously experienced. They had traveled to Earth, seeking to understand how humans had become apex predators. They had discovered instead how humans had evolved beyond the limitations of that role, and in doing so, had shown the Vuluak a possible future for their own species. The final horizon had returned with empty trophy cases, but full databanks, and a new understanding that would potentially transform the Vuluak relationship with the countless worlds under their influence. From hunters to stewards, from predators to protectors, an evolutionary leap worthy of a truly apex species. On Earth, Dr. Elena Novak continued her research in the mountain wilderness, monitoring the movements of bears and wolves through her sophisticated tracking system. Occasionally, she would glance skyward during clear nights, wondering about the alien hunters and whether their encounter had changed them as it had changed her. The universe was vast, filled with predators and prey, locked in ancient cycles. But somewhere in that vastness, two apex species had briefly connected, and both had glimpsed a shared evolutionary destiny that transcended the hunt itself.